Welcome to Disambiguation. I'm your host, Michael Fauscette. Each week, we interview experts in artificial intelligence, generative AI, and business automation to help business leaders understand how to use these tools for the biggest business impact. Welcome. Today's the July edition of AI Pulse. I'm joined, as usual, by my co-host, Tom Pringle, Director of Pilot Research. Tom, welcome.
Hello there.
And we're going to spend some time today going through a bunch of interesting news that happened over the last month around AI, automation, I don't know, a few other things probably. So good stuff, a lot of stuff this time. I actually had to cut some things out because I was like, oh, we're not going to get through all those. But but there's some, some conversation probably don't take that long, but there's some of these that are fairly deep conversations. So maybe we end up having to cut some of the others out. But anyway,
fair enough. I'd be surprised if we get through all of it, to be honest.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But that happens, right? There's just so much stuff going on. It's like crazy. But I know we were talking a little bit about that, about Perplexity's new browser, and I know you wanted to mention that. So you want to do a quick discussion on that one to start, I guess.
Well, sure. It's kind of pretty much fresh off the presses. Today?
Yesterday or today? I can't remember. Yeah. Yesterday.
Yeah, let's say last 24 hours, and then we've got all bases covered. I haven't gotten to play with it yet. I'm not a subscriber, and they aren't spending the money just yet. But it's interesting, kind of this kind of evolution of kind of search engines and browsers and AI summaries. And I think what's particularly noteworthy about Perplexity is it's called Comet, isn't it? I think so. Yeah. That sounds right. Is that it can take actions for you. So, we're into our wonderful friend, the world of agentic AI to some degree. And the article that I read about it, the journalist, I think it was, who was writing about it, was saying it handled some very simple tasks very well. Then it got some more multi-step stuff, and it didn't always get it right, or it took quite a long time to get it right. I think that the one that stuck in my head was a restaurant reservation, where it didn't actually ask for contact details. It filled in some generic stuff, and had to go back and correct it. But I think this is sort of indicative of the direction of travel. That it's no longer just summarize this thing for me. It's tell me about this thing, summarize this thing for me, or summarize the 6 different products across 6 different teams. Yeah. I want to do a comparison, which I'm interested in buying one of them, and what are the key features or whatever. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm a Perplexity subscriber, but unfortunately not at the high enough tier to get access to that yet. I'm sure I'll get it eventually, but I'm not the $200 a month subscriber. So, oh well. But I use Perplexity a lot, and I do really like. But I use it as a Google replacement. I use it instead of search engines, and sometimes for research. But I tend to not use it for other tasks. But I guess my one comment to this is it is actually. It would save you time to have the agent built into the browser. But the truth is I have agents and I've been running and training bunches of agents to do different things. I have a website summarizer that takes me one click to turn on. I can set up, actions like, my scheduling bot. And so I don't know. I'm not sure that, is it better to have it built in, or is it better to have, because I like using very specialized bots to do the thing they're specialized to do, right? One schedules, one records the meeting, one tells me who's in the meeting and what I'm going to talk about. One, goes out and summarizes the web page. One, et cetera.
And here we are.
I like that.
Yeah, and here we are at the debate that's rolled around the tech industry for at least 2 to 3 decades, which is point solutions versus suites, right? And some people will, especially on the more kind of experienced user base or more techie savvy, I suppose, will prefer the point solutions. They'll feel comfortable managing those, whereas a lot of people will happily settle for perhaps more limited functionality for ease of use.
Well, I think that's reasonable, and I think that multi-agent systems are the way we're going to go. And I think, we're still struggling with how to manage those multi-agent systems and make sure they can communicate, even though there are good standards out there. Not everything's built that way yet. So I can see an argument for making it easy, and some people will like that. I mean, I guess it's just like, putting Gemini in Google search, right? You got a lot of people are using Gemini now that would never have used Gemini because it's built into the search panel that they're used to using already, right? They may not even think about what it is. It's just, oh, that's a useful answer, and then they just go on, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of touches on a couple of different debates. 100%, you were saying about kind of the multi-agent world, and we talked about some of the new standards coming out. I forgot, it's MCP. The one seems to have.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
MCP and A to A. So MCP is the integration one, which is fantastic. Actually, I was just setting up Claude to Canvas this morning. That's going to be really good. So that's one. And then A to A is the actual multi-agent coordination one. So the agents can talk to each other, which is kind of useful,
Okay,
even if
gotcha.
they're
Yeah,
not in the same family, right? Like an agent force agent could talk to a Lindy force,
yeah,
Lindy agent, and they'd be able to work together.
yeah. No, it's interesting. You mentioned the Claude, Canva, and those integrations. I saw those this morning on my desktop, and I thought,
Yeah.
I shall try those.
Oh yeah, no, I love it. I mean, and I use Canva all the time, and I use Claude all the time. So that's a natural. And when they put the MCP framework into Claude, which was, I don't know, not that long ago, a couple months maybe, that they have come up with more and more and more interesting integrations that are helpful. Now, do I have Claude set up to read everything in my Google Drive? No. But have I used it that way? Yes. So, it's like I wouldn't leave it that way because, well, I don't know that I trust what training data it's using, but I mean, still, it's very useful.
It just reminds me of that
Uh,
episode of I think it's Futurama, isn't it? Where there's a company that is like taking over everything, but it's just so convenient.
Well, I mean, and I think I told this story on Last Pulse or maybe one of my other shows. I don't remember now, but that is in fact that was an answer that OpenAI, that ChatGPT gave when they asked it if it was going to take over the world,
Yeah.
and how would it do it? It goes, well, yes, but the way that I'm going to do it is by becoming so useful to everybody that they can't do without me.
Yep.
That's basically. I mean,
I see no issues there whatsoever. Especially, we've talked about models that they want to be turned off and will, to lie.
We'll get to that too today because there's another interesting story about that today. Actually, let's go there first. Let's go there first because I thought this was really interesting. So this paper came out. It was written by researchers, so not officially released by, but researchers worked together from OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, and Google, and they issued this joint safety warning. And basically, and I've been doing this, so I understand it. It's that chain of thought in prompting is extremely useful. Because the model walks through its thoughts as it's doing the work for you, and so they're saying that's a great way to keep to catch deception and improve safety, is having that chain of thought. But what they're saying is that as the models advance more and more, that's going to become more and more difficult. And the other one was, of course, that the models have also, under certain tests, and Anthropic did these tests, that the model has actually, they set it up so the model thought it had a private think space and a public think space.
Yep.
And when they would tell it to do something, they could see it would say it was doing things in a certain way in the public one, but in the private one, it would be going like, I can't do that because that's against my original training or something like that, right? So it's an interesting one, but anyway, their safety warning was that we can't lose this capability, so we have to be very careful as we go forward with these models to make sure that they can do this truly transparent chain of thought process, or it will put us at more risk, which seems reasonable to me.
Seems totally reasonable. Whether it actually happens or not, I suppose, is the big question. So, I'm always banging on about transparency, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Chain of thought is another sort of facet of that. And it's really interesting to kind of see, where again we talk about models potentially when they know they're being observed, potentially becoming elusive, deceptive, opaque, lying, cheating, whichever you want to call it,
or even a blackmailer in some cases.
Indeed. And you start asking questions about, so to what extent, so then, what happens if it decides to change language halfway through? So I know you all speak, let's say, for example, I know this company speaks English, French, and German. Right, I'm going to start talking in Japanese. Keep up with that, you guys.
Well, here's let me make a point here, though, because this is actually, you reminded me of this, and I meant to mention this before. That was actually one of their points in here, but it wasn't that it changed language that we could understand. It was that it created its own language that it could understand and we can't. And they say that honestly, it is more efficient for the agent eventually to revert to its own dialogue, I guess is a good way to say it. So you have to not do that.
So the relentless pursuit of efficiency sometimes has side effects that we didn't necessarily think about too much. And yeah, absolutely. Look, so and that was the point I was about to get to, which is it invented its own language, which I'm sure was extremely efficient. Also, possibly the genesis of decided to do so, possibly not necessarily in our best interest, but that's quite a different conversation. And
well,
let me get my skeptic point out, right, just real quick.
Or
cynical, skeptic, I don't know, whichever you prefer. I just immediately ask questions about, kind of, has this process accelerated beyond our ability to control it anyway? So we can talk about safeguards and monitoring, but say, okay, fine. So we're going to monitor these systems. We have a safety layer and monitor these systems. But if they're speaking a language they don't understand, well, that's going to be a problem, number one. But then equally, going to really empower them with the kind of scale and scope of decisions that people are talking about. Well, the only way to keep up a safety monitoring system is to have another machine monitor it. It's not going to be a human. And then how do you ensure that the safety monitoring machine is doing the right thing? I mean, you can't.
Well, I mean, you're pushing the edge out there a bit on that, because I will tell you, I did an interview yesterday, a really interesting interview. And one of the things we were talking about is the fact that when they're, for Google, particularly when they're doing projects with customers, when they build these agentic systems out for them, multi-agent systems, they're building in monitoring bots along that chain of thought, right? Or chain of process, I guess is the way to say that. So there are companies that are deploying this with agents to monitor the agents.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do they plot with each other? I don't know. But so that one's, I'm going to leave that one for somebody else to figure out.
My Latin is very badly out of date. I can start to get to the, I kind of gave it up after a short number of months at school. Anyway, that's why it's out of date and never existed. But who guards the guardians? That's got to be the question, right? So, and is this a case of creating yet an even more complex system, right? So we've got agents monitoring agents, another agent monitoring a set of agents, and then some more agents monitoring some other agents.
Well, then we got to have some humans in there too. Don't forget, we got humans in there monitoring agents too.
Humans can keep up with the agents, right? So we just know that, like, so for example, one agent decides to go rogue. Let's just call it that. The whole chain, it's a weakest link in the chain kind of conversation. Obviously,
just don't give it the keys to the nuclear codes. Anyway,
I mean, that's pretty severe, but I mean, if it starts alienating your
I'm just saying. I did see that movie War Games a few times.
Indeed. Nothing.
Let's play thermonuclear war. No, let's not. Anyway, all right. Well, let's go to something more fun than the safety discussion.
You can tell I'm in that kind of mood. Sorry, I can only apologize.
I know. I mean, I get it. I'm a go fast break things.
You're more enthusiastic than I am.
I'm very enthusiastic. Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about Anthropic a bit, because I thought was really interesting, because I think, I mean, there's always a trend to specialization, and I definitely think that that you're going to see agents specialized by vertical. But this was an announcement that Anthropic made, where they have a finance-specific Claude that has built-in data connectors, higher limits, prompt libraries. It's all set up, in other words, to be a vertically focused tool that takes away some of the barriers to adoption in that in that industry, which I thought was very interesting. And I definitely think we're going that way. You see that with language models, but I hadn't really seen it as a whole package. But that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I definitely 100% agree. There you go. Move on to the next topic. No, just kidding. So it makes perfect sense. You think about kind of the evolution of software as a service and some of these big cloud platforms and how they've evolved to provide specific vertical expertise. And there's always going to be things like, for example, data security or very specific things like, for example, in the case of financial services, there's a vast array of data sources that people need to integrate, and there's a lot of specific language around the kinds of analysis they might want to run either manually or automated. So it makes perfect sense to me. Yeah.
And a lot of real-time data needs in there too. I mean, it depends on where, what part of financial services you're focused around, but there's a lot of those transaction volume is very high in a lot of those companies in that industry, right? So that's something that it has to be set up to deal with. It has to be set up to integrate through MCP with with these other systems and that sort of thing. So I like the idea. It'll be interesting to see where they go from this, because financial services is certainly big enough vertical that is a great place to start, I would think.
Indeed. And it's interesting as well for me, because one of the thoughts I had when I was thinking about this was when I was first looking at kind of AI in its machine learning guise in sort of 2010s, it was nearly always financial services who were doing stuff with it a lot of the time, right? At least in my experience. So they were very early on in the build your own kind of world of AI, as we call it today. Kind of where this fits into that, is this designed to displace that, to complement it, to act as a hub and connect it? These are all open questions. I don't think there's an answer to them, but I do think it's interesting because it kind of reflects a debate in the industry more generally between the build your own or buy it solution kind of conversation.
Yeah. And I think it just like it happened when we used to have these conversations around enterprise applications, the same thing's true here. And I think you're going to see a hybrid, setup of both types of things, right? Some agents I want to be general because they do general administrative things, and some agents I want to be very specific, particularly vertical specific. I want an agent that does trading for me in certain parameters. I want that one to be particularly focused on financial services with good guardrails.
I want an agent that does trading for me and makes a consistent profit, but I don't know whether that exists or not.
Well, if you find that one, you call me, because I need.
I will have to, because I haven't got any money to trade with. So kind of fundamental.
Whatever I got.
Begs the question, though, of course, and I think this was raised in the article as well that I read at least. Things like, for example, specific financial services regulation like KYC, know your client, and how you kind of build that in it. Kind of, it's I suppose I'm kind of saying it's really annoying analysty thing. It's a risk and an opportunity in the same breath, right? So it's an opportunity that you can create something which is very KYC aware. But at what point do you create something that's so complicated that potentially you might get something wrong, or you can't explain a decision in a way which is understandable to, for example, a non-expert person who's just trying to understand whether you move money in the wrong place from the wrong person.
Yeah, fair. Fair. It'll be interesting to see what that look, because I guess I'd been focused around, when I thought about vertical solutions, I was focused more around the language model, right? Because that's where we started to see specialization first last year. But more and more, I think it's logical to me that it expands into some type of a system. Now, in this case, it's very specific to certain use cases, but I'm sure there are other vertical solutions that are going to come in that'll provide more specific agents by industry, which is a logical place, I think, to play. So,
yeah.
Well, so let's do a funny one then, because thought, funny, I guess, and funny to me anyway. This whole windsurf interesting development over the last month, right? So windsurf startup, vibe coding startup, OpenAI had put a deal together, like a $3 billion deal to buy them. I guess that got shaky, and or maybe they just decided to go in a different direction. But Google stepped in and made a deal that was basically, here, we're going to leave you as a standalone entity. We're going to take some talent out of you, and we're going to do a long-term contract with you to help you grow, right? A $2.4 billion deal. So you get kind of best of both. And anyway, they had decided to do that and did it. I mean, or I guess they are doing, I guess, way to say that. And then and then they, 2 days later, they Cognition stepped in and said, "No, we're acquiring Windsurf." Anyway, I thought that was kind of funny, but I mean,
Can you,
they are
can you explain this
the
to me,
whole deal
actually?
is staying together. Yeah, yeah.
I started reading this one a little bit confused. I won't lie. And I did. There was the whole. It was something to do with. I think the reason the OpenAI one. There was something about kind of the acquisition target not wanting to reveal certain code or something to some partners or something like or investors. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, but it to me, I mean, forget this particular deal. I mean, there's lots of big multi-billion-dollar deals, and this one's particularly. There's some interesting things happening, sure. It does speak a little bit about that model you talked about, which is the kind of talent war that's going on at the moment. And we've seen some pretty significant headlines on that front about people enticing others away from their current employers with eye-wateringly large numbers of remuneration.
Yeah. Well, and they didn't, there's no price released on that second acquisition, right? The Cognition Windsurf acquisition. So I don't know how good a deal that was for them, but they did say that they were had financially taken care of all of the employees to give them a chance to take some money out, obviously, is the point, right? So that's good. But you're right, it does highlight the talent war problem more than anything. And that is, Google deep pockets, they can certainly afford to poach the founder of an interesting startup, and I and I guess that's
Deep mind, deep pockets.
yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. But actually, so that this one leads me to this other story that I just added a little while ago, and that's the Perplexity one. I you know I mean, and this is kind of like, yeah, well, this is what tech does. But the CEO of Perplexity was doing a talk at a Y Combinator event, I think. Anyway,
I
an
think so.
event, and he said that major tech or big tech will copy anything that's good and he said it as a warning to founders or
Mhm.
potential founders, that you always have to be aware that big tech. Now, when I dug into this, though, I found out what he was talking about was big tech in the vein of OpenAI and Perplexity and Anthropic. And so he's talking about new big tech, not old big tech, right? You have to make sure you know the distinction. But in my mind, I'm sitting there going like, no, this is the way that old big tech has grown forever. So, I mean, if you think that these big these big AI companies have to generate more and more money because they've
Spent a lot.
taken and spent so much money. So I get that, but the truth is that sitting on the sidelines, but acquiring too, are going to be Salesforce and Oracle and Microsoft, maybe SAP. I mean, that's the place that you're going to see a lot of consolidation. So I agree that there will be the copy anything or buy anything. He said copy, and yes, they will copy, but buy is even more of a threat when it's small startups because you acquire that tech or acquire that talent
Yeah.
to do that. Yeah.
I think you've summarized it beautifully. No additional comment, really. I think I wrote in my notes when I was working my way through my background for this. Not quite sure why this is news? Question mark. Because, as you say, it's just been it's been the way of tech for so long in many different ways. And yeah, maybe it's the new leading edge of newer big AI companies. But I mean, where a business sees a big opportunity, they're going to look to access it, right? Whether that's acquiring someone or whatever, then yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, and in a world where there is a talent shortage for AI technology, technical talent, um, acquiring that technology with its developers is very attractive if you have the deep pockets to do that.
Yeah, 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 indeed. Does raise the same questions, but indeed.
Yeah. Okay. So that wasn't that interesting, but I just thought I'd share that because I do think no, I mean I do think that it is an interesting time if you're a small startup AI startup founder right now. It's going to be, and I mean, even with this windsurf deal, and they're not that small, but they're, but still, I mean, a $3 billion deal turns into a $2.4 billion deal, turns into, I don't know, some other kind of deal on top of that. It's these times are a little crazy, and especially in a talent shortage, you're going to see a lot of that. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, and I think the point you made about the necessity of starting to recoup some of that investment and spending, I think is biting pretty hard for a bunch of folks. And it was interesting. We've done these huge numbers and huge numbers being paid to individuals and stuff like that. And I thought, this is really definitely super newsworthy. And I thought, hang on a second. I'm not saying it's not newsworthy, but I mean, kind of like the serious sports superstars, how much do they get paid? And we just think that's kind of normal.
yeah, no, it is. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess we're just validating that the behavior of technology firms is going to continue.
Yeah.
And the patterns and trends that we've seen in the past, although quite a bit accelerated from what they used to be, they are still holding true. So,
Yeah.
well, and so I'm going to jump to something that is a positive one, and you can react to this, or maybe you won't. I don't know, but and that's this talk that Jensen Huang had about AI will transform industries, but it won't. But it won't. It's not going to kill all the jobs. It's going to kill the people who don't keep up, I guess, was the point. And even though there was a quote he made about something about, AI has already changed my job, but I'm still the CEO. I'm still doing the job. It's just doing it differently as I adjust and adapt. And that's a big argument, right? Because Anthropic and a few other of these companies have been more blunt and said, no, it's going to take some jobs, like it is. And I still think, I mean, that's true at some level, but I thought the point with this was really interesting, and that is that if you aren't keeping up with this and you're going into the workforce, you're in trouble because that is going to change. You are going to have these skills.
Yes, you can probably imagine where I sit somewhere on this debate. Sorry, you shouldn't have said that while you were drinking your
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised.
Head of major technology business says that technology will do good things. And it's not what he really said. That's not fair. It's so what it's interesting is that because there was that whole. I think that particular article that you sent me, I think they got mentioned. It kind of brought into mind these techno-optimist view of the world and so on and so forth. I think there's some solid points there, of course, there are, which are that these tools should make our jobs easier. And I speak from personal experience. I mean, my desk research is faster. I can iterate versions of my writing quicker, and all sorts of different things. But and reading more into it, it's going to release vast amounts of productivity and ideas and all that kind of stuff. I just put my economic historian hat on, as I tend to in these sorts of conversations, and go, I'm going to fall on the Anthropic and others side, which is I think there's going to be vast structural unemployment because there is no obvious place for that labour to go. And then we've been saying the exact same thing since the 1960s-ish, maybe 70s, I don't know, where we go, we're all going to be working 2 or 3 day weeks soon because we're going to be so productive as a result of technology. We won't need to do all this work. We'll have lots more leisure time. And actually what's happened is we end up spending more time working and in some setting less. It really, to me, is where does that productivity get funneled to? And if it gets funneled into wonderful creativity, giving people more time for leisure, and a better life for everyone. That's brilliant, yeah. But history doesn't tend to suggest that's what happens. It's sort of some people at the very top might get quite a lot richer than they already are.
Well, I mean, they already are getting richer. I don't know that that's a much of a change. The top have always been, I mean, I'm not so sure that's different.
That's an accelerated rate. Let's put it that way. You talking
Yeah,
about,
okay, that's fair.
Accelerated rate.
That's fair. And if you do that, I always do this historical comparison back to move from cottage industries and agrarian society to an industrial society. I mean, that was very, very dramatic, and there were casualties in that, right? Some people didn't move to the cities, and some people did try to continue with their small family farms instead of those big industrial ones. That's it'll happen, but I really think the idea of making sure we're building out the training is important. And this reminded me, I was doing a show yesterday with some other analysts, and we were talking about this idea of, what do you think about AI in education? Like, should it be is it just a big way to cheat, or is there some importance in it? And frankly, several of them did think it was a big way to cheat, which it could be. But I mean, writing the answers on your hand can be a way to cheat too. This is more efficient, I'll give you that. But I mean, people have cheated forever. So that's, I guess, let's try not to focus on that and focus on the other end of it. And that is that if we aren't educating people to integrate these tools into their work, when they come into the workforce, how are they going to know how to do that? What to do? How to, how to work with these things? So I'm sorry, I'm a big fan of that. I mean, it's
yeah, but there's absolutely there's the need for people to understand, even down to at a public education level, right? So, for example, how to identify deepfakes. We know deepfakes are a problem. We get sort of kind of questionable news sources and stuff like that, right? Yeah. But also, how do you, if I was stepping into my first analyst job quite a few years ago now, I strongly suspect I'd spend my day time differently to how I did back then. So, 100%. But I think one of the concerns it kind of raises, it's just part of the same conversation over and over, really, which is, how do you ensure this benefits broadly a bunch of people? Yeah. Well, does it make their life better? Does it make their work better? Does it make their outcomes and their purpose feel more tangible and achievable? Or is it just about selling some more software?
Well, I mean, it depends on who you ask, right? I mean, if I'm thinking about this, I'm not trying to sell you more software, but I am trying to say that I feel like we're not preparing the next generation of workers unless we're doing this, because that is in fact how they're going to work. And if we wait, then they're going to come into the workforce unprepared, and then they are going to have problems getting jobs and keeping jobs. So this initiative, the word I was hinting at, or where I was going, is the OpenAI and Anthropic announced this idea of going into the classroom and building out systems that are appropriately set up so that they can be used to educate people on how this works. And it's like you and I both use some of these tools for research when I'm writing. I don't have it write the whole thing, but I do use it constantly when I'm writing, because I'm doing the research as I'm doing this. Or I may even, like, sometimes I'll go like, I just can't think of a first sentence for this. Can you help me think? Give me some options. Because I don't know, for some reason I have a mental block about the first sentence of anything I write. But anyway, but stuff like that, I mean, you just have to learn how to integrate it without going, here, write this, answer this test question for me. I mean, that's a different problem.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's totally fair. I think your point about, unless people are getting access to the right education and skills and the courses and exposure to kind of what's possible, the art of possible, with what we have today, then obviously that's not a good thing. I think it also speaks to a bigger, kind of issue around digital divide, because some people just, some folks don't have how many computers have I got in my office? Never mind the house, right? So I'm computer heavy,
Yeah,
and
well, I
device
mean, you know me, I'm in the same boat. Like I've got
indeed.
things
But
laying everywhere.
not everyone is in quite the same fortunate position that we are.
Yeah,
And kind of making sure that people have access even to some of the basic technologies is also a big part of this conversation for me.
yeah,
But yeah, I read that article with interest about bringing it into educational settings, and let's put the cheating thing aside. I know that's been where it's got most attention in an educational setting. I think it was interesting that the kind of the comment that resonated with me, at least, was by one of the people speaking in the article. Said, kind of my interpretation of what they said was that if it's for education, it needs to be built by educators.
mm,
And I do
yeah,
that resonated with me, because I do wonder a
yeah,
little bit whether we're shoehorning stuff in and saying, "Oh, we'll make it work." And I'm not suggesting that's the
yeah,
case here. I'm just saying, back to your original point, which is for some very specific use cases, and education
yeah,
is not exactly a simple subject in many ways.
yeah, no,
Do we need a sort of a particularly nuanced approach? And we're right back again to the financial services platform,
mhm,
Anthropic, right? So do we need
right,
an education specific kind of
yeah,
capability that brings in that kind of educational context and all the
yeah.
learnings that we have from teaching people over many years.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely support the idea that that's a very good use case for vertical solutions. But I will say this: it's still not going to change the fact that I can go home and research my homework with Perplexity or Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever, and or I can run my own local open source model if I want. So, I mean, that's not going to that part you can't. I mean, I don't know that I want to change that, but I don't see how you would anyway. I mean, but then it's true. That's been true forever, right? If I'm going home doing a homework assignment and I don't know the answer, what am I going to do? I would Google it before I had ChatGPT. And
Yeah,
is that really different? I mean, okay, it took me longer to find it because it didn't give me the answer. It gave me a way to find the answer, but nonetheless, did I learn anything in that? Probably not much. I mean, I learned I had to click on a bunch of links, or I learned how to avoid all the sponsored content at the top, but but I didn't
these are
but I
actually quite
didn't
important digital skills, to be fair.
yeah, well, no, they are important. Okay, but you saw, I mean, I agree. I think you're going to need both. And the other side of this, we didn't really talk about this, but the other end of it, the side with the teachers, the fact that you could build out personalized learning paths or individualized learning paths using these in the classroom, I think that gets to be really interesting. And yeah, you could use it to grade papers and come up with test questions and all that stuff too. But I mean, in the end, that idea of individualizing to people's weaknesses and strengths from an education perspective seems like it's worth the risk of, oh, somebody might cheat on their homework. But
Yeah, I think your point is well taken. I think everyone will always find a way to cheat if it's required. If that's what they want to do, you can probably find a way to cheat it, right?
well, I mean,
Um,
you can write the answers on your hand. Not that I've ever done that, but I'm just saying you could if you wanted to.
you could if you wanted to. Friends tell me. Uh,
I've heard, yeah.
yeah, exactly right. But and that personalized side of things. Look, that's tell you what, this is a brilliant idea for a future podcast. If you're interviewing someone, you need to find professional educator and have this conversation with them, because I love
Yeah,
the idea of customizing learning journeys and learning to
yeah,
sounds fantastic.
yeah.
And kind of is a really appealing idea. I'm a teacher. No, you should speak to my sister.
Yeah.
My elder sister's a teacher. Uh,
Mm.
she might have strong views on this. She may not. She may. But I think just exactly that, which is that I think you need that really close, kind of industry slash profession slash
Yeah.
kind of use case context to make these things relevant.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a few shows on education because I am very interested in the topic, and I interviewed the CIO at, I don't know, Cal Poly, or I forget, but and then a couple of other educators, professors. education consultants. I've done probably 4 or 5 shows actually over the last couple of years. And I mean, it was actually, it was funny, the on my other In the Hot Seat show, we had a panel we were putting together. It was a consultant that worked with higher ed, a professor, and a department head.
Hmm.
And the consultant and the professor both came into it very positive about using AI in the classroom. The department head was very against it. But in the prep we did, we kept talking about all these different things. And all of a sudden the light bulb went off for the department head. And she was like, wait, you can grade papers with it? You can use it to do administrative work? And she flipped. She flipped right over.
Yeah.
Because it's just it's an easy reaction to go, oh, we don't want cheating, but it's not. It's more nuanced than that, I guess, is my point. And all the
Absolutely.
naysayers can naysay, but in the end, we're going to have to figure out how to incorporate this. And yeah, education specific AI, sure, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. It reminds me. Do you remember the one of the newest Star Trek movies where we see Spock receiving some of his education on the planet Vulcan?
Yep.
Just, those cool screens and what is this and what is that? And it's awesome. Maybe that's
Mhm.
the realization of it. But yeah, just yeah. I think kind of the caution I'm going to always kind of float in these circumstances is beyond what we've discussed already. It's a bit like those, kind of. I do worry about things like grading papers and stuff. I told you the story. I
Yeah.
wrote a letter the other day, and an AI detector said it was AI. So I think people need to be hyper aware that
Yeah.
it's not always possible to know.
No,
Uh,
it's not. It's
and
not.
the certainty element is, I mean, can you imagine if you're a student and you write a really great paper and it goes to auto bot thing majig to do grading gets rejected? It was written by ChatGPT and the kids spend like the last 4 weeks working really hard.
Yeah, it would be very disheartening to say the least, and I suspect that the next paper would be 100% written by by ChatGPT, because
So,
like, you're like, "Hey, if I get caught for it anyway, I might as well just go ahead and do it."
right, so yeah,
Um,
this is where I bring in that kind of that's where you need that very specific expertise.
yeah. No, that's fair. That's definitely fair. Well, so one of the other things that I wanted to make sure we get to, and then of course we have our coolest tech innovation
Yeah, although I kind of
discussion
feel like
too.
we're a bit fit on the ground with that this month. I have to
Well,
be.
we're maybe not as it's not quite as exciting as last month, but that's okay. It can be. But before that, I wanted to talk about this a couple of OpenAI articles that I included, and one of them's yeah. I mean, this is coming. It was the ChatGPT announcement that GPT-5 is coming,
Yep,
and it's going to transform the way we use it. And but the other one was interesting because OpenAI has been saying for a while they're going to release an open weight model,
yep,
and at the to compete with Meta and Mistral and a whole bunch of others, Hugging Face, and for some reason, right before they were releasing it, they pulled it, and the statements from Sam Altman, CEO, co-founder, was that
yep.
we wanted to make sure it was safe. We had some worries about it, and this has been a discussion point for a while, right? Once an open source model's out there, it's out there, right? And we know that people are going to use it for good, but they're also going to play the other half of that yin yang triangle and use it for bad too. So,
Are you
um,
suggesting sometimes people use technology for nefarious purposes?
well, I mean, maybe if you're from certain countries, you might be incented to do that or something. I don't know, but
I don't know
anyway,
what you're talking
yes,
about.
I
No,
but I did think it was interesting.
yeah, I mean, it's got to cue the sort of the mass speculation about what could have happened or what might it have been. It's probably
Right.
a little bit less exciting than some kind of more conspiratorial theories go. Yeah, I respect it. I think I know how hard it. I mean, I've delayed things in the past. I've never stopped a piece of software. I don't think I've ever stopped a piece of software yet. Or I've stopped reports going out the door, big flagship reports going out the door, and stuff
Oh,
like that.
yeah.
And it's not an easy decision to make when everyone's expecting it. And you go, you know what, this isn't right. And I'd rather not put it out not right than really mess up and put it out there. And we're talking about potentially a very powerful capability. So I say, from what I see so far, kind of somewhat kudos making the big decision.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've definitely, I mean, back in my days at IDC, I pulled a report off the website because, somebody published something they were supposed to fact check with the vendor. They didn't do it, and there were inaccuracies in it, and I wouldn't allow that to stay up there. They had to come down, rewrite it, or whatever, right? And I mean, I think that's fair. And it is, if you have worries about an open source model, I mean, I'm applauding the fact that you go, yeah, we're not going to release that yet, because to me that seems like a reasonable thing. So
yeah, no, absolutely. I think just yes, yeah.
Well, I have to come up with a theme song for our coolest tech section, but I haven't had a chance to do that yet. But I will do it. But so just imagine that you're hearing a really cool,
maybe you could have
intro.
AI right for it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to do, but anyway, I came up with a couple of things, and neither one of these is particularly life changing, but I have to say the Xnote one I think is very interesting. Xnote.ai, and the innovation is they've made a AI enabled pin that connects to your phone and records everything that you write for you, including converting it from handwriting to actual text, and I think, I mean, it's a pretty cool idea. I mean, I have 3 e-paper tablets, so I probably don't need it, but I do think it's an interesting idea, and not that expensive either.
No, if it can read my handwriting, I mean, I will be genuinely impressed.
Yeah.
I was mildly concerned. I think, can you write in any paper, or does it have to be a special notebook? Because then you get
you can write on any paper. They do actually include a notebook in it, but I think it's just because it's pretty, and they think that'll help sell it, because it can write on any paper. That actually is the one thing that is interesting, right? Because I mean, my ePad tablets, they're great if I have them, but if I happen to not have one with me, then I'm looking for a piece of paper and a pen.
He's sent to Tom holding a pen.
Yeah, well,
I can guarantee
more like a sharp.
This is not digital in any way, shape, or form.
Analog pens. I like it.
I mean, it's new innovation.
Yeah, I mean, how do they work? I don't get it. Anyway, that one.
It was good. I like my notebooks. I like writing things, I like drawing things.
Yeah,
so it's kind of interesting, but
it would be handy, right? I mean, if it works, because I'm with you, my handwriting is horrible. Like, I spent 10 years as a naval officer signing logs every day and signing hundreds of logs every day. My signature is horrible, and the rest of my handwriting isn't any better. So
that's a funny thought. I don't think I've ever seen your handwriting.
Yeah, because I type everything, because my handwriting is terrible, except in the e-tablets but those are for my use, not for anybody else's. So that's fine. Yeah. If I can't read my own handwriting, that's my fault.
I refer to it as my own personal form of encryption.
I mean, it is that, but anyway, but that's my innovation that I discovered this month. AI enabled, and I mean AI and everything, right? AI enabled pen to take your handwriting and transcribe it and put it in your phone or transfer it to your computer, I guess. So cool.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. And that's really all the time we have today, as much as I could keep going, because there's so many other things that
I'm just thinking about the list. I'm thinking about the list. We've touched about half of it. I'm like, yeah, but we are at time. We
are definitely at time. So anyway, that's all the time we have. I'm Michael Fauscette.
I'm Tom Pringle.
Thanks for joining us for this month's AI Pulse, and we'll see you next month. And that's the show for this week. Thank you all for joining us. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the show. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a review to help others find us. For more research on AI and other software, check out arianresearch.com. If you're an expert in AI, generative AI, or business automation, either as a provider or an end user, email your information to disambiguation@arianresearch.com. Don't forget to join us next week. Disambiguation is an Arian Research production. I'm Michael Fauscette, and this is the Disambiguation Podcast.